A recent group of researchers from the University of South California used microbial samples of plankton to prove that marine bacteria containing rhodopsins are more abundant in warming oceans than previously thought. Rhodopsins are pigment proteins that absorb sunlight. This allows bacteria to be capable of producing energy without carbon dioxide. Most bacteria produce energy from photosynthesis. Photosynthetic organisms, like most bacteria, require carbon dioxide in order to produce ATP, as carbon dioxide is used in order to produce Ga3P, which is ultimately formed into glucose molecules that are used for respiration. Bacteria with rhodopsins in them, however, do not require carbon dioxide in order to produce glucose that can be used for respiration.
The bacteria were found in the Atlantic as well as the Mediterranean. These are areas of low nutrients, and reasons for areas of low nutrients even existing is due to the ocean currents, which propagate nutrients, through the movement of currents. So where the currents are generally where nutrients reside. So this tells us that there's no competition between the bacteria and the photosynthetic plants. And as you can see here in the diagram in the bottom right-hand corner, we do see in the first image there is overlap between the two organisms. So this tells us that there was competition. So this image here wouldn't represent the situation between the bacteria and the photosynthetic plants. But to the right of that graph, we do see a separation of the two niches. So this tells us that there's no competition and they're both living outside of each other's environment.
So I know you all are wondering why the bacteria are found in areas of low nutrients, and the broad answer is human activity. Through the burning of fossil fuels, humans have caused a significant increase in CO2 levels. In this graph by NASA's database, we can see that the CO2 levels are at the highest they've ever been in Earth history, and if humans continue on this path, they'll continue to rise. Another reason why there is variance in the amount of biomass in the oceans is the Coriolis effect, which essentially is when the wind flows in a curved or circular path, to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the south. This causes a high number of biomass near the equator and low levels in surrounding areas. Upwelling is something that occurs when the cold water sinks to the bottom of the ocean and pushes the warmer water up, which is nutrient rich. In this image, you can see where the nutrient-rich water will accumulate near the equator, around 0 degrees. So, what does this mean for the bacteria?
It all comes down to a flowchart. First, human interactions with our environment through the burning of fossil fuels has led to an increase of CO2 levels. This increase in carbon dioxide levels has a direct correlation in the increase in overall temperature of the oceans. This high temperature of water is an idealized niche for bacteria. This environment is more suitable for the bacteria to sustain life, allowing them to reproduce.
So the research paper talked about the energetics of the bacteria. It looked at certain wavelengths and determined through its amounts of energy that was captured whether or not it could absorb that wavelength. So as we know, photosystems absorb light energy and excite electrons, and through that they can use that electron in certain pathways. So the research paper did see that certain photosystems were able to actually absorb all wavelengths of light, and there was basically no difference in the amount of light energy captured, and this is very different from photosynthetic plants, which generally don't absorb wavelengths around 550. So this is very, very significant.
So, what impact does this have on climate? Considering that rhodopsins are becoming increasingly abundant in the world's oceans, the study found that the concentration of carbon in bodies of water will decrease significantly. This is because a majority of bacteria will soon no longer require carbon in order to produce energy. This means that carbon fluxes will change so that less carbon enters and comes out of oceans. Since carbon fluxes will be changed, this will have a large impact on the world's climate. Carbon concentrations in the atmosphere will decrease, which can ultimately alleviate the effects of global warming that have been occurring in the recent years.